Well, here we are. It's the first week of April 2023, and the volatility in the marketplace is still with us. We still see prices go up, prices go down, and I wanted to share a little parable with you that would maybe help you understand a little bit more about why the market does what it does. I want you to think for a minute that you're at a fancy restaurant and you're sitting at your table and you're getting ready to order your food and you hear a ruckus out of the kitchen. There are people that are kind of arguing and you hear little snippets of the conversation, and some of the line chefs are talking about, well, no, we need to put 2 tablespoons of salt in, and somebody else says, no, we need 2 teaspoons of salt, and someone else says, maybe we need 2 cups of salt, and you're starting to get a little nervous because you realize that if they oversalt the food in the kitchen, then it's going to ruin the meal. But you look at the table and there are no salt and pepper shakers on your table. So you almost have to rely on the folks in the kitchen to season the food properly. Finally, the head chef comes out and he says that we are going to put the perfect amount of seasoning on this food. The reason that I use this story as a parable is that when it comes to the economy, the head chef of our economy is really Jerome Powell, who is the chairman of the Federal Reserve. And he has a very, very hard job because what he's trying to do is to navigate how to control inflation. So when we think about the salt in the food, think about that as interest rates, because that's what the Fed uses to control inflation. They will adjust interest rates as needed. And when they adjust interest rates, they have to do it in a way where they say, okay, we are going to raise interest rates because we know historically that is one way to control inflation. But at the same time, they don't want to drive the economy into recession. It's a really, really tough balancing act. And the Federal Reserve has that responsibility. So when the Fed decides to raise interest rates, we as the investors in this community, which are like the diners in the restaurant, have decisions that we have to make. If you're at the restaurant and you're concerned that you think the food is going to be overly seasoned, you can cancel your order and leave. You can order something else. You have the ability to control your outcome. What happens in the marketplace is if investors think that the Federal Reserve is doing the right thing and that interest rates ultimately will control inflation, they may stay the course, they may actually buy more investments, and that drives the market up. But there are other people that get nervous and say, no, this is not where I think we should be. They end up selling, and that drives the market down. And this cycle of buying and selling is what creates that volatility in the marketplace. Now, volatility in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, because if prices never change, they would also never go up. We think of volatility as prices going down, and that's what is concerning to most investors. So I think it's important to understand that when you think about what Renee and I do, I like to think of ourselves as financial nutritionists. If you hired a regular nutritionist, they would try to balance fruits and vegetables and proteins and carbohydrates and try to create the right mix of those ingredients to get you to all of your health goals. And those are very important. We do the same thing by taking a look at what your financial goals are and try to help you reach those. So if the Fed does one thing, we can't let that drive our decision making. In other words, the Fed is going to do what the Fed has to do in order to try to control inflation. And if they do that by raising interest rates, that's fine. It gives us an opportunity to take advantage of rising rates to invest some of your money one way. And I've been doing this for 40 years, and we've been through a number of these time frames in the past. It doesn't mean that volatility is necessarily bad, and I think that we have to understand that staying the course and having a good long-term plan to get you to all of your financial goals is not necessarily impacted by the short-term moves that the Federal Reserve makes. So while they're important and newsworthy, we're trying to look at the bigger picture. And hopefully over time, you will be rewarded, because I think the bigger picture will ultimately provide us with all of the ways that we need to help you reach your long-term financial goals. But I have to tell you, all this talk about food is making me a little hungry. So I'm going to go grab something to eat. And if you ever have questions, if you ever have concerns, I hope you know all you have to do is pick up the phone or shoot us an email. We're all here to help you. Thank you very much.